We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. It's a Bible reading party. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. It's a Bible reading party. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's get an early start this Sunday today, shall we? Oh, where's it at? All right, let's get it. The time is now Sunday. The time is now 6:37 a.m. Sunday morning. It's July 19th, 2020. We are at the end of week 29. Week 29, reading the Bible every single day. It does not take a lot. A little dab will do you. And that's how that goes. Welcome to Boulevard 40. This is the channel and home of the Bible reading party. This is my Bible that I'm going to be reading from today. It is the New Believers Bible Compact Version, First Steps for New Christians. It is the New Living Translation. I also may or may not be using my Nelson's Compact Series Bible Dictionary. I do use this quite often. It is very helpful in knowing how to pronounce different biblical names and to get a little bit more insight into the history, politics, and different concepts of what's going on in different scripture. And I will show you very shortly my Bible study guide that is helping me to pace myself every day as I read through the Bible. So here it is. This is my Kindle download version of A Woman's Guide to Reading the Bible in a Year. In the gold box, on the gold rectangle, you will see read on one part and checkpoints on the other side. And the second book of Chronicles is what I've been reading this week. Today I will be reading 25 through 27. That's the last listing to be reading today through Second Chronicles. And these are the checkpoints that we have covered or will cover. Glory in the temple. That's when Solomon built the temple, and the glory of the Lord came through like a cloud. Monkeys on a merchant ship, did not read that yet. That's the fear of foot disease, we did read that. Sheep without a shepherd, we did read that. And a letter from Elijah. Oh, before I show you the cover, let's do another recap of what it has been happening this week. What is this week about? It's week 29, and this week is titled Good Kings, Bad Kings. It says here, Second Chronicles outlines the reigns of Solomon and the kings who followed him in Judah. The rulers who followed God, obeyed his laws, and led the people to do the same, brought blessings to the nation. Those who worshipped idols, false gods, and even promoted idol worship led the nation away from God. Solomon reigned for 40 years, amassing vast wealth and military might. When Solomon died, his son Rehoboam succeeded him. Within a short time, the northern tribes rebelled, and the nation of Israel split in two. Only the tribes of Judah and Benjamin remained under Rehoboam's rule in the south. The remaining tribes formed the northern kingdom of Israel under Jeroboam, who set up his own idols for the people to worship and appointed his own priests. The Levites and priests throughout the northern kingdom and many Israelites who remained faithful to God then moved to Judah. From that point, Second Chronicles remains focused on the rulers of the southern kingdom, an up and down parade of wicked and godly kings and their rebellion and reforms. So that's what we've been reading this week through the second book of Chronicles, chapter 7 through 24. And like I said, today we're going to be finishing up this week with 25 through 27. This is the cover of the book in case you would like to get your own. This is a digital download copy through Kindle, but there is a physical printed copy available. And the links are in the description of this video. The links are in the description for this particular guide, the Bible that I'm using, and the Bible dictionary. Here's a site that I would like you to visit whenever you can, and let me know what you think about it and what you would like to see added to this site. This is called the Bible in 1 year. And I developed this site shortly after starting this channel. The Bible in 1 year is produced and created by me and added to by me weekly to help encourage people to read the Bible, maybe not in a year, in your own time, but there are resources on here that you can check out, places to get a Bible and places to give a Bible. You can donate to a particular organization and help other people receive Bibles. Or you can use this affiliate link here to purchase your own Bible if you don't already have one, or if you would like to gift one to someone. And then there's a blog article that you can read that will be updated weekly as well. And finally, the resources page, which has different sections to help you prepare in reading the Bible. So without further ado, let's get started here on today's reading of 2 Chronicles 25 through 27. Good morning to the early bird in the room, Miss Eva Frazier, who says good morning and thumbs up. Welcome, welcome to the early bird Bible reading party. Happy Sunday to you. Let's do a quick recap of what happened yesterday as I read through chapters 21 through 24. I think it was 21 through 24. '22 through 24 was yesterday. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Yesterday, in chapter 22, we talked about Ahaziah ruling in Judah, a revolt against Athaliah, the death of Athaliah, and Jehoiada's religious reforms. Chapter 24 talked about... Okay, yeah, that was chapter 23. Chapter 24 talked about Joash repairing the temple, Jehoiada's reforms reversed, and the end of Joash's reign. And we're going to start with 25 right now. Amaziah rules in Judah. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother was Jehoadin from Jerusalem. Amaziah did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, but not wholeheartedly. When Amaziah was well established as king, he executed the officials who had assassinated his father. However, he did not kill the children of the assassins, for he obeyed the command of the Lord, as written by Moses in the book of law. Parents must not be put to death for the sins of their children, nor children for the sins of their parent. Those deserving to die must be put to death for their own crimes. Then Amaziah organized the army, assigning generals and captains for all Judah and Benjamin. He took a census and found that he had an army of 300,000 select troops, 20 years old and older, all trained in the use of spear and shield. He also paid about 7,500 pounds of silver to hire 100,000 experienced fighting men from Israel. But a man of God came to him and said, Your Majesty, do not hire troops from Israel, for the Lord is not with Israel. He will not help those people of Ephraim. If you let them go with your troops into battle, you will be defeated by the enemy, no matter how well you fight. God will overthrow you, for he has the power to help you or to trip you up. Amaziah asked the man of God, "But what about all that silver I paid to hire the army of Israel?" The man of God replied, "The Lord is able to give you much more than this." So Amaziah discharged the hired troops and sent them back to Ephraim. This made them very angry with Judah, and they returned home in a great rage. Then Amaziah summoned his courage and led his army to the valley of Salt, where they killed 10,000 Edomite troops from Seir. They captured another 10,000 and took them to the top of a cliff and threw them off, dashing them to pieces on the rocks below. Meanwhile, the hired troops that Amaziah had sent home raided several of the towns of Judah between Samaria and Beth Horon. They killed 3,000 people and carried off great quantities of plunder. When King Amaziah returned from slaughtering the Edomites, he brought with him idols taken from the people of Seir. He set them up as his own gods, bowed down in front of them, and offered sacrifices to them. This made the Lord very angry, and he sent a prophet to ask, "Why do you turn to gods who cannot even save their own people from you?" But the king interrupted him and said, "Since when have I made you the king's counselor? Be quiet now before I have you killed." So the prophet stopped with this warning: "I know that God has determined to destroy you because you've done this and have refused to accept my counsel." After consulting with his advisors, King Amaziah of Judah sent this challenge to Israel's king Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz and grandson of Jehu: "Come and meet me in battle." But King Jehoash of Israel replied to King Amaziah of Judah with the story: "Out in the Lebanon mountains, a thistle sent a message to a mighty cedar tree: 'Give me your daughter in marriage to my son.' But just then a wild animal of Lebanon came by and stepped on the thistle, crushing it. You are saying I have defeated Edom, and you are very proud of it. But my advice is to stay at home. Why stir up trouble that will only bring disaster on you and the people of Judah?" But Amaziah refused to listen, for God was determined to destroy him for turning to the gods of Edom. So King Jehoash of Israel mobilized his army against King Amaziah of Judah. The two armies drew up their battle lines at Beth Shemesh in Judah. Judah was routed by the army of Israel, and its army scattered and fled for home. King Jehoash of Israel captured Judah's king, Amaziah, son of Joash and grandson of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh. Then he brought him to Jerusalem, where he demolished 600 feet of Jerusalem's wall, from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate. He carried off all the gold and silver and all the articles from the temple of God that had been in the care of Obed-Edom. He also seized the treasures of the royal palace, along with the hostages, and then returned to Samaria. King Amaziah of Judah lived on for 15 years after the death of King Jehoash of Israel. The rest of the events in Amaziah's reign, from beginning to end, are recorded in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. After Amaziah turned away from the Lord, there was a conspiracy against his life in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But his enemies sent assassins after him, and they killed him there. They brought his body back on a horse, and he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. That is chapter 25 of 2 Chronicles. Chapter 26 goes a little something like this: Uzziah rules in Judah. All the people of Judah had crowned Amaziah's 16-year-old son Uzziah as king in place of his father. After his father's death, Uzziah rebuilt the city of Elath and restored it to Judah. Uzziah was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 52 years. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. Uzziah sought God during the days of Zechariah, who taught him to fear God, and as long as the king sought guidance from the Lord, God gave him success. Uzziah declared war on the Philistines and broke down the walls of Gath, Jabneh, and Ashdod. Then he built new towns in the Ashdod area and in other parts of Philistia. God helped him in his wars against the Philistines, his battles with the Arabs of Gur, and his wars with the Meunites. The Meunites paid annual tribute to him, and his fame spread even to Egypt, for he had become very powerful. Uzziah built fortified towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, at the valley gate, and at the angle in the wall. He also constructed forts in the wilderness and dug many water cisterns, because he kept great herds of livestock in the foothills of Judah and on the plains. He was also a man who loved the soil. He had many workers who cared for his farms and vineyards, both on the hillsides and in the fertile valleys. Uzziah had an army of well-trained warriors ready to march into battle unit by unit. This army had been mustered and organized by Jael, the secretary of the army, and his assistant, Maaseiah. They were under the direction of Hananiah, one of the king's officials. These regiments of mighty warriors were commanded by 2,600 clan leaders. The army consisted of 307,500 men, all elite troops. They were prepared to assist the king against any enemy. Uzziah provided the entire army with shields, spears, helmets, coats of mail, bows, and sling stones. And he built structures on the walls of Jerusalem designed by experts to protect those who shot arrows and hurled large stones from the towers and the corners of the wall. His fame spread far and wide, for the Lord gave him marvelous help, and he became very powerful. Verse 16 talks about Uzziah's sin and punishment. But when he became powerful, he also became proud, which led to his downfall. He sinned against the Lord his God by entering the sanctuary of the Lord's temple and personally burning incense on the incense altar. Azariah, the high priest, went in after him with 80 other priests of the Lord, all brave men. They confronted King Uzziah and said, "It is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord. That is the work of the priests alone, the descendants of Aaron, who are set apart for this work. Get out of the sanctuary, for you have sinned. The Lord God will not honor you for this." Uzziah, who was holding an incense burner, became furious. But as he was standing there raging at the priest before the incense altar in the Lord's temple, leprosy suddenly broke out on his forehead. When Azariah, the high priest, and all the other priests saw the leprosy, they rushed him out, and the king himself was eager to get out because the Lord had struck him. So King Uzziah had leprosy until the day he died. He lived in isolation in a separate house, for he was excluded from the temple of the Lord. His son, Jotham, was put in charge of the royal palace, and he governed the people of the land. The rest of the events of Uzziah's reign, from beginning to end, are recorded by the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz. When Uzziah died, he was buried with his ancestors. His grave was in a nearby burial field belonging to the kings, for the people said he had leprosy, and his son Jotham became the next king. That is chapter 26 of 2 Chronicles. And now for today's final chapter, chapter 27 of 2 Chronicles. Jotham rules in Judah. Jotham was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Jotham did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight. He did everything his father Uzziah had done, except that Jonathan did not sin by entering the temple of the Lord. But the people continued in their corrupt ways. Jotham rebuilt the upper gate of the temple of the Lord. He also did extensive rebuilding on the wall at the hill of Ophel. He built towns in the hill country of Judah and constructed fortresses and towers in the wooded areas. Jotham went to war against the Ammonites and conquered them. Over the next 3 years, he received from them an annual tribute of 75,000 pounds of silver, 50,000 bushels of wheat, and 50,000 bushels of barley. King Jotham became powerful because he was careful to live in obedience to the Lord his God. The rest of the events of Jotham's reign, including all his wars and other activities, are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. When Jotham died, he was buried in the city of David, and his son Ahaz became the next king. I'm very curious as to what made Uzziah burn the incense, if that's something that he knew was only for the priest. Let's see here. This is from Britannica.com. I don't know if they'll have any deep theological knowledge, but I'm just curious if I can find why. Why do these people do the things that it seems very obvious for them not to do? Uzziah, also spelled Ozias, O-Z-I-A-S, also called Azariah or Azarias in the Old Testament, son and successor of Amaziah and king of Judah. The Syrian records indicate that Uzziah reigned for 42 years. His reign marked the height of Judah's power. He fought successfully against other nations and exacted tribute from the Ammonites. Judah expanded westward with settlements in Philistia. During the period of Uzziah's reign, the nation prospered. The desert areas were reclaimed by water conservation, and Jerusalem's walls were reconstructed. Towers were added, and engines of war were mounted and strategic points. A large army was also maintained. Okay, here we go. According to biblical record, Uzziah's strength caused him to become proud. Okay, which led to his destruction. He attempted to burn incense in the temple, an act restricted to priests. When the priest attempted to send him from the temple, the king became angry and was immediately stricken with leprosy. His son Jotham ruled. Okay, so basically it was his pride from becoming so militarily strong, and also anger. Pride and anger are the two emotions or characteristics that popped up with him before the leprosy took over. Interesting. Well, on that note, I sure hope that you guys learned something new. If you are new to this channel, welcome. This is a daily Bible reading channel with other Christian and faith-based topics on here. I hope that you do get a chance to join and subscribe if you haven't already, but also to visit the website, The Bible in 1 Year. That is my resolution, is to read the Bible daily, which means I'm going to be essentially reading the Bible in completion in 1 year. So check that website often and let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you find it helpful, and if there's something that you think would be more valuable on it, let me know here on this channel. On that note, I will do a quick outro prayer, encouraging those, first giving thanks for the opportunity to read my Bible and also to share what I'm learning and reading daily with an audience online through the miracle of technology. And my prayer and wish is that those listening would be encouraged to read the Bible on their own and come to their own understanding, build their own relationship with God, build up their own faith, and find some purpose for their life so they can live their best life. That is my prayer for you. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. If you didn't get to catch me live, watch me on the replay. Thanks for joining the Bible reading party.